Central banks are here to stay. And central banks look at the longer term perspective of the economy and the country.
Central bank governors around the world may have different views and opinions on monetary policy strategies, but one thing most would agree on is their bank's independence.
Sometimes we do have a conflicting objective where the central banks normally look at the longer term perspective and certain stakeholders may look from a shorter term perspective. So that is where the independence is important, because we want to make sure that countries are put on the right path towards sustainable growth. In the case of Malaysia, it is clearly stipulated in the law that the monetary policy decisions are independently made by the Monetary Policy Committee.
Welcome to the 2025 Spring Meetings Governor's Talk. Today I have the distinct pleasure of speaking with Governor Rasheed of Bank Negara, Malaysia. Governor, welcome and thank you so much for doing this.
Governor Abdul Rasheed sat down with Krishna Srinivasan, head of the IMF's Asia and Pacific Department, to talk about the intricacies of central bank operations in Malaysia, which currently holds the chair of ASEAN amid rising trade tensions and all the uncertainty.
Governor, let me start off with a big picture question. Over the past several years, inflation in Malaysia has been low and stable. This comes at a time when many other countries, emerging and advanced economies, inflation was high and sometimes rising. So what magic here? What's the secret recipe for your success in keeping inflation low and stable?
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the question, Krishna. I think there's no secret recipe, actually. I think perhaps I would relate this to two main reasons. One is that we came in, our starting point was different. Mm-hmm. I think we came in with stable and low inflation, and we had a history of inflation about 2% on average. Second is that we don't have wage pressure. In terms of the wage bargaining power in Malaysia is relatively weak, so that has helped. But more importantly is that when we had this pandemic, in terms of the fiscal support, it wasn't as large as what we have seen in the advanced economy. Mm-hmm. So ours was a bit more moderate. And therefore, the demand pressure was not as high as what we saw in the advanced economy. So that has helped us in terms of managing inflation. Another point that is worth mentioning is in terms of the policy coordination. I think it's very critical between fiscal and monetary. Mm-hmm. They didn't counteract each other. That's very important. The moment when we saw, after the reopening, we saw demand pressure, the fiscal support was reduced and became more targeted rather than broad-based. So this has also helped contain demand pressure. So in overall, this is the factors that's supporting us in terms of managing inflation in Malaysia.
So the complementary policies through fiscal was very instrumental.
Correct.
In making sure that inflation was muted.
Correct.
And what was the role of communication in all of this? I mean, this has been a big challenge for many countries in the region, right? So,
adjusting the policy rate during the post-pandemic wasn't easy, especially bringing it up from 1.75 to 3%. It wasn't easy. Of course, I think ours is much lower than as compared to in the advanced economy, but even that was a challenge. We need to really adopt a different communication approach to really educate the public. Why is it important for us to manage inflation while it's low? Because the cost of higher inflation or unanchored inflation is very costly to the public citizen. So that kind of communication is very important. And in fact, we have to adopt a multiple channel of communication, because communicating with the general public is not easy, especially when it comes to matters of monetary policy, which is quite technical. So we need to really speak the language of the ordinary citizen and explain to them why it is important. And we adopt multiple channels. We went beyond our traditional channels of announcement of monetary policy statement. We even leverage on social media and others as well.
Fast forward to where we are today. Rising trade tensions, heightened uncertainty, and Malaysia and countries in ASEAN seem to be caught in the crossfire. How do you see the situation from your perspective? How is Malaysia being affected?
Okay, all right. Certainly, I think we'll be affected. I think the Asian region and Malaysia and even globally, I think it'll be affected. Given the magnitude of the announcement on tariff in terms of the uncertainty, that's another area where I think it's very difficult for anyone to even make a forecast. As you know, Malaysia is a small open economy. And certainly, when you have trade being impacted, growth will be affected as well. And we do expect that. And we just came out with our annual report last month.
I saw that.
And at that point of time, I think we have actually taken into account some assumptions. And we believe it was rather conservative already at that point of time in terms of the impact on the tariff. But yet, what came out was even totally different.
Totally surprised.
Yeah. Not just in Malaysia, but I believe the whole world. It's beyond what was reasonably expected in terms of the quantum, in terms of the magnitude, and more importantly, in terms of certainty. That I think is something that being pushed out there, but again, is up for negotiations. So we don't know where's the landing point. So when we came out with the projection, we projected Malaysia's growth to be between 4.5 to 5.5% at the point of time. I agree. Certainly, this will need to be marked down.
Right.
But we're not to be in a rush to do it because we need to really see how this settled. For example, how does the negotiation goes and how does the retaliation happens as well. And we've seen retaliation and what will happen at the end. So these are the important elements that need to be factored in terms of coming up with a new forecast range. But having said that, Krishna, let me just share in terms of in the case of Malaysia, we're coming in from a position of strength.
Yeah.
Because we started off with a very strong growth last year at 5.1% and beyond our earlier projection. And this came in supported mainly by the domestic demand. But 95% of the growth are contributed by domestic demand. And if we look at the key drivers, I think there are a number of elements. Of course, first is private consumption. That's very strong. And this comes from the low unemployment rate. In fact, our unemployment rate has gone to a level pre-pandemic at 3.2%. And if you look at the labor market participation, it's at the highest, 70.5%. And we saw increase in the compensation of employees as well. So wages is increasing. So this will continue to support consumption. Second, interesting story about Malaysia is in terms of investment.
So
investment.
Yes.
We saw record high investment coming into the country last year. So that shows that we have sufficient liquidity in the country itself to fund investment. And we got a lot of interesting projects coming from the national plans that was announced 2 years ago. So this is an interesting story, I would say. And we saw the kind of investment that's coming in are the better quality investment, the high quality investments that create higher value-added activities, that create high income jobs, and that has strong domestic economic linkages. That's very important. And this will definitely support growth. And we see that this has legs. So this will support us into 2025.
So just two follow-up questions on that. So you talked about consumption picking up, investment picking up. So the pivot towards greater domestic demand, you already was in the works before you saw these trade tensions arising? Or was it, in some sense, a response you thought about?
It's something that we saw happening a couple of years ago. In terms of, in fact, I think the Malaysian economic structure is very well diversified. And in fact, the domestic demand element has been there for a while. So it's something that has been there for a while. It's not a response to the developments recently. And this is something that has been supporting economic growth in Malaysia in the past. And I think I mentioned that our economic structure is very diversified.
Right.
In terms of services, about 60%. And even export, we are very well diversified in terms of trade partners. And there's no countries that accounted for more than 15% of our trade.
Okay, that's right.
Even one country. And second is that even in terms of products itself, it's well diversified. We got ENE, we got non-ENE as well.
Oh, that's an interesting point. The second follow-up question, at times like this, do you talk more often to your friends and allies in the region? So how is the ASEAN as a group talking to each other to face these circumstances?
Okay. It's very timely. You know what? We had our ASEAN governors and Minister of Finance meeting just 2 weeks ago. It just happened a few days after the announcement, the Liberation Day announcement. And of course, I think having said that, most of the discussions centered around that topic. Of course, we do have other topics as well, but somehow interest was more on the same topic. And what we saw is that there's common understanding among the ASEAN members that we believe that we need to engage constructively in dialogue and discussions. And we're not taking a step retaliation mode. We need to go on a constructive engagement mode. But more importantly, what we saw is that a strong discussions moving towards what can we do within ASEAN. ASEAN is huge.
Right.
700 million population and about the fourth largest economic bloc in the world.
Right.
And younger generation population. So it has a lot of potential. And we do see that I think there's a lot that we can do together in terms of enhancing our intra-regional trade. Right now it's about 20%. And we know there's a lot of rooms for us to do better. And so that's why there's consensus in terms of how do we do this better.
Greater integration within the region, both trade and financial.
Exactly. And financial can be the catalyst to push trade integration. Yes. Just one point to share with you, Krishna and members. What we have done recently is that we have actually enhanced the payment connectivity, instant payment connectivity within ASEAN. So with this tool, it will enable integration to happen at all levels. Not just at the corporate level, but also at the household and SMEs level, where anyone in Malaysia or in Cambodia, for example, they can promote their products in the region and sell the products and make payment instantly. Right. And this has actually going to be a very strong catalyst for this to happen. And now we have, for example, in case of Malaysia, we have instant payment connectivity with Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, and Cambodia. And we're moving towards multilateral connectivity.
Yeah, that's a great innovation. Yeah, we're noticing that. Let's go back to monetary policy. Yeah. So how do you see the risks of navigating monetary policy going forward? Now, we talked about uncertainty. As the MD mentioned, uncertainty is off the charts, right? The point here is, when you see advanced countries also facing the same uncertainty, their monetary policy stance is also, uncertain. What will they do? How much will they tighten? How soon will they tighten? And so on and so forth. How do all these factors play into your equation of doing monetary policy in an emerging market like Malaysia? What should emerging markets in other parts of the world take listen from there?
Okay. It is challenging given the uncertainty that we are facing, and also in terms of the path of monetary policy that's happening across the globe, especially in the advanced economy. That will definitely have an impact on Asia and Malaysia in particular. And as far as Malaysia is concerned, when we do monetary policy, it's more of domestic consideration. So that's the main consideration. It's domestic consideration. And we look at in terms of what are the outlook for growth and inflation. Because our monetary policy mandate is to really ensure there's price stability that's conducive for sustainable economic growth. So that's our mandate. So we try to tie this to this mandate. And what happens elsewhere, it will have an impact on our monetary policy in such a way if this alters the outlook of inflation and the outlook of growth that we see over the next couple of quarters. So that's how it has implication on us. But having said that, managing monetary policy under this current environment of uncertainty is difficult and challenging. And we do not want monetary policy to exacerbate the uncertainty.
Right.
So we need to provide stability in terms of, I think, clarity regarding monetary policy and also in terms of the mandate of monetary policy. So more importantly is to stick to the mandate in terms of achieving price stability that can be conducive for sustainable economic growth and data dependent, and also in terms of forward-looking. Stick to this policy, and we need to also be agile. We need to also be flexible, and we need to also act at the appropriate time. But having said that, under this current environment, having a comprehensive set of data points is critical. So in the case of Malaysia, apart from the normal statistical data that we look at in terms of projecting outlook for inflation and growth, we also have strong surveillance that we undertook on the ground. Malaysia is a small country, but yet we have 6 regional offices of a central bank that operates in the various regions, and they have a very strong networking with the businesses to collect data. The businesses and also the households, where they do survey to ask in terms of what's the inflation expectation of the household, what's the order books of the MNCs, of the companies that's operating in the region, what's their hiring intentions, are they going to hire more, are they going to lay off people. So we get on the ground data from these 6 regions, and this complement the data set that we have. So I believe this is important under this current environmental uncertainty. Having a very strong feel on the ground is critical, and that will provide great support in terms of for us to come up with appropriate monetary policy. Having said that, at this current position, our policy rate is at 3%. And at this level, it is supportive of growth, and it is reflective of our projection or our outlook for inflation and growth.
But you're still subject to the uncertainty of capital flows, right? And what it means for exchange rates and so on. How have you addressed that challenge? I mean, you have the domestic financial conditions which tell you maybe you should lower interest rates, but then you see, capital flows coming down, and then you see exchange rate being affected. Right. How do you factor all of this together?
Yes, of course, it is challenging because the thing is that in a small open economy and a well-integrated market, I think capital flows definitely have an impact in terms of our financial conditions, in terms of financial stability, and in terms of economic development as well. So that's where, in the case of Malaysia, with regard to our foreign exchange policy, we apply a flexible exchange rate approach. And it's market determined, ringgit is totally market determined. And where we come in is just to ensure two things. One is that to ensure there's no excessive volatility in the market. Second is that to ensure there's orderly functioning of the market. There's sufficient liquidity into the market. Why is this important? Because these are important elements that businesses look at in making their business decision and investment decision as well. So these are the two main things that we look at. How do we do this? Of course, I think we do apply forex intervention, but that is done judiciously where we need to really ensure orderly market, sufficient liquidity, and also to manage any excessive volatility. Apart from that, we do a few things as well. I'm sure you would have heard that we have this coordinated approach between the central bank and the government.
Yes.
Where we have a lot of government-linked companies and government-linked investment companies which has operations overseas and investment overseas. We encourage them to repatriate their income, not their investments. We are not asking them to divest their investment, just their income, to bring back the income and repatriate and convert into ringgit. And they have done so, and that has provided healthy flows into the market. Second is that we engage with the corporates, we engage with the investors. The corporates, particularly our exporters and importers, encourage them to bring back their export proceeds and to convert it to ringgit. And that's a good outcome from there. And they understand what they need to do so. And when they come in, they repatriated, they converted. And later on, when they want to go out again, we give them flexibility. We even have a program, because when we met them, they said this is one of the areas why they are a bit reluctant to convert.
I see.
And we give the assurance. We say, you register under this pilot program, we call it a qualified resident investor. If you repatriate, you convert, when you want to go out and invest outside again, we give you a fast track. Okay. And that have worked very well. And third, we engage with the investors. And that has improved the sentiment of the investors, and we do see investment coming to the country.
One last question. Malaysia is the chair of the ASEAN presidency, right? So what are your priorities for the presidency?
All right. We have 18 priority economic...
18.
And this centered around in terms of enhancing integration in ASEAN, enhancing inclusivity and sustainability. So that's at the broader level. But for the finance track, central bank are pushing for three things. One, in terms of how do we catalyze, how do we get the funding sources to help the region transition in terms of, I think, addressing climate change and transitioning to sustainability. So that's where one of the main aim for us. And we had roundtable in terms of putting some projects in the ASEAN region and what are the investment that can come in. And we had a very good interest from investors, from the MDBs, from the private equity, philanthropies. Everybody was there and they were very interested in terms of funding these projects. And one of the projects is the ASEAN Power Grid project, which is a multi-country project in linking the power grids so that we can green decarbonize the region. At the same time, how do we share the power grid?
Okay.
That's one. Second, in terms of instant payment connectivity, as I mentioned just now, we want to really move this. We had a lot of bilateral arrangements. We want to move this to multilateral arrangement, and this is an area where we want to push forward. And the third is in terms of the financial safety net.
Yes.
The Chiang Mai initiative. We believe under this current environment, having gone through this situation, we need to strengthen this. We need to move from the current commitment base to paid-in capital base. To provide certainty for the funds to be there when people need to use it. And secondly, is to make it more affordable and more reachable and more friendly to the countries.
So this kind of the regional thing will complement the role of the IMF in the region. So,
correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. It's more a complementary role to the IMF.
Thank you, Governor. We are out of time here. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. Malaysia is a very important emerging market economy, and to hear from you was very good. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much, Victor.
That was Malaysia Central Bank Governor Abdul Rasheed speaking with IMF Asia and Pacific Department Head Krishna Srinivasan. The event took place as part of the Governor Talk series held during the spring meetings in April. You can watch a webcast of the event at imf.org. And go to imf.org/podcasts or the platform of your choice to find more of these podcasts. You can also follow us on X. Our handle is @IMF_podcast. I'm Bruce Edwards. Thanks for listening.